Police say a man breaking into a home in Winter Haven came face to face with 3 armed family members. Now he's dead. Here's your map. This was a little before 7 a.m. this morning on Lake Mariana Drive. Fox 13's Aaron Mesmer is live at the police headquarters there. Aaron, a crazy story there. What have you learned tonight?
Well, Mark, the latest on this right now is the police just released the identity of the man who they say broke into that home, 40-year-old Mitchell Large. And get this, who only lived less than a mile from the home he broke into. Chief Gary Hester says the man made it to the kitchen, and by then, all 3 family members were armed. Investigators say a break-in turned deadly when a family opened fire on the intruder.
Listen to this, folks. An 11-year-old boy is shot during a home invasion, but takes justice into his own hands by shooting one of the suspects back with a rifle.
And you would certainly not expect to see a little boy shooting a rifle and leaving one of the suspects in critical condition. But that's exactly what happened at this home on Minnesota Road and 8 Mile Line. Hidalgo County Sheriff's officials say 3 men stormed into the home at around 12:30 this morning. A mother and 2 minors were in a bedroom when they heard loud bangs on the front door. 35-year-old Veronica Guerra told investigators she got up to check and saw 2 men wearing masks and armed with weapons walk towards her. She quickly closed the bedroom door, but the men tried to force their way in. One suspect shot through the door, hitting the 11-year-old boy in the hip. But what the boy did next is remarkable. He grabbed a .22 caliber rifle and shot back, hitting one of the suspects in the neck.
The intruder breaks into a home, but he ends up in the hospital after a young girl grabs a gun and shoots.
This happened in Bryan County Wednesday morning. The 12-year-old girl was home alone when the man broke in. New at 6, News 9's Chris McKinnon joins us with her story. Chris.
Christina and Kelly, the 12-year-old told police she heard the man ring the front doorbell. When she didn't answer the door, he went around to the back and kicked open their back door. That's when she called her mom, who told her to get the family gun, hide in a closet, and call 911. Knowing her daughter was in danger, Deborah St. Clair raced home from work.
I drove home at a really fast pace to try to get to her, and when I got here, the police were already here, and they had the suspect.
That's because St. Clair's daughter shot the intruder as he made his way through the house.
14-year-old's quick thinking might just have saved his family. Police say the teen shot an intruder who was breaking down the door of his home.
Police are saying 2 suspects in this case. One of them, the one the teen shot, is in critical condition.
A male enters. He has a gun in his hand, and he points it toward this young man. At that point, the young man fired his handgun at the suspect, and the suspect was hit.
15-year-old at home with his 12-year-old sister when burglars try to break in.
That's when investigators say the boy grabbed his dad's assault rifle and started shooting. He hit one of the men repeatedly.
A 15-year-old boy and his 12-year-old sister had been home alone in the Mount Royal Village subdivision. Then about 2:30, a pair of home invaders tried the front and back doors, then broke a back window.
A young boy was protecting his sister.
The brother grabbed his father's assault rifle and knew what to do with it.
Now to that other breaking story. What began as a home invasion ends when a young boy opens fire on the intruders. It happened tonight in the Canarsie section of Brooklyn.
This home invasion robbery attempt was foiled by a 9-year-old who investigators say grabbed a gun, fired at the intruders.
Well, police have converged on a north side home, actually, where a teenager has reportedly shot and killed a burglar. Police were called to that home around 7:30 this morning. When they got there, they found the suspect was dead.
He is only a teenager, and investigators say he did what he had to do.
A young man that was inside fled to another part of the room or the house. The suspect came in, was armed with what looked like a pistol. I think it's going to be a BB pistol, but it looks like a pistol. I haven't touched it. So,
alone and fearing for his life, police say the boy grabbed a small caliber rifle and shot and killed the suspect.
Investigators say a 14-year-old boy shot a suspect who was trying to break into his house. Let me step out of the way here for you so you can see the scene behind me at the 5500 block of Minton. That's Minton near Baseline, the Levine area here in Phoenix. Police say a 14-year-old was inside his house with his siblings, ages 12
12, 8, and 10 when they heard a knock on the door. He looked outside, saw a woman he didn't recognize. He went back about his business and later heard the door rattling and banging like somebody was trying to get inside. He went upstairs where he got a handgun, and police say as he was coming down the stairs, the door broke open. At that time, he saw a male suspect with a weapon pointed towards him, and he shot that suspect, who was taken to the hospital in extremely critical condition.
Mexico has strict gun control. You cannot own a gun in Mexico, and they had 20,000 people dead last year in the drug cartel wars.
But Mexico has a very particular problem involving drugs. I can cite to you Britain, average... Well, let me just throw it back at you. In Britain, for example, an average of 35 people a year are murdered with guns. In Germany, it's about 40 to 50. France, the same. Spain, the same. Italy, there's a pattern here. America, 11 to 12,000 a year.
Yeah.
This country has more guns than anybody else and more gun murders.
Yeah.
It's inarguable, isn't it?
No, not at all.
It is.
Because I was in the Philippines physically the day Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law and made himself a dictator.
Can't wait for Congress to do its job. So where they won't act, I will. And I've told my administration, we're going to look every single day to figure out what we can do without Congress. What can we do without?
And the first thing that dictator did, he gave the people of the Philippines 2 weeks to turn in all their guns, or it was the death penalty.
I have 2 words for you: predator drones. You will never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
Now, why would a dictator do that? Why would he make his #1 priority when he took over as dictator to disarm the public? The Second Amendment is there, and it was put in there not for hunting and fishing like they like to say, because back when they did it, if you didn't hunt or fish, you didn't eat. It was put in there so the citizens would have the ability, if their government became oppressive, they could defend themselves against oppressive government.
And when they get our guns, they can have their world tyranny, while the government buys 1.6 billion bullets, armored vehicles, tanks, helicopters, predator drones, armed, now in U.S. skies, being used to arrest people in North Dakota. The Second Amendment isn't there for duck hunting. It's there to protect us from tyrannical government and street thugs.
All right, how many people here die because of car accidents of drunk driving? Do we go to the Ford Motor Company and tell them stop making these automobiles because people get drunk and kill people in cars?
It's a facile argument.
It's a what?
It's a facile argument. There's no equivalence between drunk driving and lethal firearms. My point is...
Wait a minute. A car is a 2,000-pound projectile that can go 100 miles an hour.
I have no problem with an American believing that their right under the Constitution is that they can defend themselves, especially in their own home, if they're being attacked and they have a weapon.
It's also against government.
I have a big problem with a disturbed young man, as we saw in Colorado, being able to buy 6,000 rounds of ammunition and a high-powered assault weapon and go into a movie theater and blow away 70 Americans. I have a big problem with that. And nobody else in America in high office seems to share that big problem.
Well, I'll tell you what, Piers, I have a conceal and carry license. Had I been in there, I would have taken this guy out before he could have killed that many people.
It was just a normal day at the Palms Internet Cafe in Marion County. You can see the customers chatting and playing their games. But they were interrupted by these 2 men. Watch as deputies say Davis Dawkins and Dwayne Henderson come in and wave a gun, pointing it right at the customers asking for valuables. But just seconds later, someone steps in. Look at the right of your screen. A man running with a gun, firing at the suspects. From another angle, look at the guys in black clothing with masks. One with a gun, the other with a bat. You see them, and then you don't. The next time they come into view, one of them is diving on the ground. The man, 63-year-old Samuel Williams. He's right behind them, firing. They leave. Williams, calm as can be, locks the door and waits for police. When questioned by detectives, he said he was with his wife at that cafe and was afraid they were going to shoot someone. He told them he was scared. And you wonder, did he hit either of the guys? He sure did. Marion County detectives found them at the hospital, both with gunshot wounds.
So there you go. Williams, however, will not be charged. Dawkins and Henderson, yeah, they are being charged with attempted robbery.
Well, I think that, again...
But because, let's remember, police can't stop crimes. Police show up after they're over. Remember that. So when you talk about me not being able... If there would have been a legitimate conceal and carry in that theater, quite possibly they could have taken this guy out and saved people's lives.
Or you could have had the gunfight at the OK Corral in there and lost even more lives, couldn't you? That's what could happen. Anyway, let's take a break.
What roll of the dice would you like? You'd prefer to be unarmed? How many people here think I make crackpot points?
Yeah?
One. How many think I make sensible points?
Problem in our cities and unhappily in our schools, where people like you have been able to get laws put on the books that keep people from being able to defend themselves. I honestly don't understand why you would rather have people be victims of a crime than be able to defend themselves. It's incomprehensible.
You're an unbelievably stupid man, aren't you?
It seems to me that you're morally obtuse. You seem to prefer being a victim to being able to prevail over the criminal element. And I don't know why you want to be the criminal's friend.
What a ridiculous argument. You have absolutely no coherent argument whatsoever. You don't actually you don't give a damn, do you, about the gun murder rate in America? You don't actually care. All you care about
seems to me that facts don't bother you, do they, Mr. Morgan?
You would like to see...
Facts don't seem to... They bounce right off of your head.
Let's deal with some facts.
You're speaking oblivious to what we do know, is that when you go to an area in the United States where guns are freely available, readily able to be carried legally, there you find our lowest murder rates, lower than the murder rates in Europe. You go to our cities where we have cracked down on guns, and people can't defend themselves, and that's where the criminals have a...
Now reporting that Senator Leland Yee has been arrested on multiple charges. Also, our partner...
And once again, we welcome to the Senate Spotlight Desk State Senator Leland Yee, representing the 8th Senate District, San Francisco and San Mateo counties, and also chair of the Senate Human Services Committee. Welcome back, Senator.
Thank you for having me.
In announcing what is common sense legislation to make California's gun laws the toughest in the nation. They were actually until New York, I guess you could say, beat us a couple of weeks ago. But tell us about this.
What we're trying to do is to protect our community, make it a lot safer. The shooting in Connecticut really woke up the conscience of not only California, but throughout this country, that we cannot allow any individuals to go and harm our young children. And so we have redoubled our efforts to try and find ways to ensure that our children and everyone in our community are going to be protected.
KTVU reporting that Yee is in federal custody. Leticia, what are you seeing?
Yeah, hi, Director. We are on the 4th floor. The room in question here is room 4072. It is on lockdown right now. This area has been roped off. We are told by the Legislative Council that the FBI is, in fact, inside right now raiding Leland Yee's offices.
As authorities searched his Senate office and several other locations, including Chinatown's Ki Kong Tong Supreme Lodge, which belongs to the Chinese Freemasons. Also arrested was Raymond Chow, who previously has faced federal charges. Yee is a Democrat who is running for California Secretary of State.